Yeah, neither one of us just wanted to just sit back and accept it because like I served in the military and she served as a military spouse, right? And we love our country. We love what it stands for. We love the 4th of July. So to just walk away from enjoyment and our sense of patriotism wasn't an option. So we had to find a way to bring patriotism the to the political views, I guess, that we hold. So
Right.
it was like, how can we incorporate? So we started coming up with the idea of these designs. How can you incorporate the red, white, and blue with other symbols that demonstrate, freedom and support of all groups
Equity
of
and
Americans? Yeah.
racial equality and all the things that we're dealing with in our country today. So,
Several years ago, as the 4th of July approached, Natalie and Jonathan found themselves at a crossroads. While they had always celebrated the holiday, Jonathan, a U.S. Navy veteran, and Natalie, actively involved in the military spouse community, planning family events, their enthusiasm for sporting the traditional red, white, and blue had started to fade. They realized that the symbols of America, particularly the flag, were becoming unfairly tied to one side of the political spectrum. Driven by the belief that these national symbols belong to all Americans, they decided to take action. Together, they founded Woke American Apparel, a brand for socially conscious individuals who want to express their patriotism without compromising their values. Their mission is simple: to offer patriotic gear that not only celebrates America, but also supports the social causes that truly reflect the freedoms and rights the nation was built upon. Natalie and Jonathan firmly believe that the American flag represents every citizen, regardless of race, identity, origin, or love. While they acknowledge that America isn't perfect, they are confident that in its potential to grow, evolve, and become a better version of itself. Thank you so much, Jonathan and Natalie, for being here today. It is such a pleasure to have you. I've spoken at length with Natalie, and now I'm excited to have Jonathan on of just what you both have been creating. And I want to dive right into my first question, and I'm just dying to know, what was the defining moment when you both realized that your relationship with traditional symbols of American patriotism, like the flag, had changed? And how did that realization inspire the birth of Woke American Apparel?
it was a thought that popped in my head over 2 years ago. It was about May 2 years ago. Coming up on July 4th, we were in the car and I was like, I want to go buy shirts that, represent July 4th, but I'm not real proud of our country right now. So I realized that like I wasn't excited about a holiday or my country.
Yeah, I think we realized that that feeling had been growing over several years, and it was
Yeah.
like 2.5 years ago that we really realized we had this hesitation to even uh, display those symbols of patriotism, um, and we realized that that's like the problem. Like patriotism doesn't belong to one end or the other of the political spectrum. But it felt like one end of the political spectrum had commandeered it to where that term patriotism and those symbols were so associated with that political group that if you did fly an American flag outside of your house, people were going to make assumptions about who you were voting for or what your stance on social issues might be.
Right.
And
So I was like, well, I don't really want to buy any clothing that has the American flag on it because I don't want to be mistaken for
Mhm.
this other side. So we had a conversation. I brought it up to him and was like, what's going on here? Like, is there anything we can do about this? Like,
yeah, neither one of us just wanted to just sit back and accept it because like I served in the military and she served as a military spouse, right? And we love our country. We love what it stands for. we love the 4th of July. So to just walk away from enjoyment and our sense of patriotism wasn't an option. So we had to find a way to bring patriotism the to the political views, I guess, that we hold. So
Right.
it was like, how can we incorporate? So we started coming up with the idea of these designs. How can you incorporate the red, white, and blue with other symbols that demonstrate, freedom and support of all groups
Equity
of
and
Americans? Yeah,
racial equality and all the things that we're dealing with in our country today. So,
like Natalie's shirt here is a prime
Yeah.
example of that. Like you wanted to show the patriotism, of course, but then make it clear
Yeah.
what you're supporting through that patriotism.
Exactly. And you both have shirts on from your brand as well. So I just wanted to point that out because they're not what you would see in a regular store. Like I've never seen anything with bringing all the different symbols that represent the spectrum of people that live here because we're a melting pot when you look at the US and just different viewpoints, different types of people. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings. But I would love to talk a little bit about the designs too for both of you, like since we brought that up. But because when you started thinking of, okay, how can we represent this? What can this look like? The ideas I'm sure started to flow, but how did you decide on like the first few ideas that you had and like actually putting it out there?
our very first design is stars
Stars
and
and
stripes and equal rights. And so we did that in two different forms. The stars and stripes is red, white, and blue, and then equal rights is we have one that's rainbow colored and then one that is black lives matter, and indigenous peoples and all the other brown people that live in this country too. So
That was another defining characteristic from the very beginning with the idea for this brand was that we wanted to support these social issues in a way that wasn't just put a symbol on a shirt and make some money on it or something. It was like, how can we give back? So we've built in from the very beginning, like I said, that a portion of all profits are donated to a charity, and the charity is different depending on the design, but it's listed in our product descriptions which charity we donate to. But like Black Lives Matter, or with Pride Gear, we donate to the Trevor Project, which is a great program for preventing suicide amongst the LGBTQ community. And we also partner with some other groups like Parasol Patrol, which is another group that helps shield young people from hate. And that was important to us, is to make sure that this was built into the brand, that it wasn't just about reclaiming patriotism, but showing patriotism through support to these organizations that we believe are doing great things for America and Americans.
yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the most important part, right? It's not just talking about it or putting a symbol on a shirt. There's so much action behind the clothing too, and having different charities depending on the design and really being creative with that, but also giving back to all the communities, not just one in particular, but really diversifying that and being able to showcase that and have it on your website as well. And I'm just really curious because I know Jonathan, you're a veteran. Natalie, you were super involved in the military spouse community.
Mhm.
How did you reconcile your personal history with the flag and that shift towards creating this socially conscious brand? Was there ever any like sense of conflict for you two?
Between us or
Through like designing and creating it, maybe
Uh,
a conflict with the world.
well, yeah, our original name was Bountiful Patriot. And we had to rebrand after a year, just because we didn't realize how much the word patriot had been commandeered as well. So it was really interesting, the amount of people that were originally drawn to our brand and then immediately said, no, 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 that's not what we want. Because we weren't being able to be put in front of the right audience. So we rebranded to Woke American Apparel. at the beginning of this year. And now we're kind of leaning more toward woke American patriot, really kind of taking back that word too. At the same time, like woke doesn't always resonate with everybody. So we're really trying to like take both words and be like, look, this is, if you love your country and you think we can do better as people and be more equal and create more equity and all the things, then you might be a woke American patriot. So that's kind of, it has been definitely an uphill battle. We deal with hate comments on a daily basis. It's really kind of crazy the like threats and things that happen. but
it's just that effect that we were talking
Yeah.
about earlier. Is it's like you put the name patriot on a brand, and everybody's going to assume that must be in support of one particular end of the political spectrum, and that's just not the case. So like on the one hand, like Natalie said, we're consciously fighting that fight to take back that word and take back the concept, because in reality true patriotism actually aligns better with the other side of the political spectrum. It's been commandeered and usurped by a group of people who don't actually even support true American philosophy in their politics.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I want to touch on the word woke because I know that term has evolved over time. It carries various meanings to various people and can be controversial. But how do you define woke in the context of the brand and how you hope it resonates with your audience and clientele?
Is for me, it's that you're aware of what's happening and you're wanting to do something about it. So that you're not just, putting your head in the sand and saying, oh, not my problem, that you're aware of the racial injustice, of the harm that has been done to so many groups of people, to women, to Jewish people, to everything. Like anytime that there is hate, we want people to be woke and be aware of what's happening and try to make change. So
as part of our brand, I have a TikTok channel where I kind of explore a lot of these concepts, and I talk about occasionally like, why are we woke? What does that mean? To me, I think the basic definition is basically what Natalie just said: being aware of the social inequities that exist in our society. That's the simplest definition, the most straightforward. The reality, though, to me, I guess, comes from, just think about the origin of the word woke, coming from awoken or waking up, like that you're not closing your eyes, sticking your head in the sand, remaining asleep. You're awakening to the realities of the world, and they're not always pleasant. They're not always, righteous and cool, but they are the realities of the world we live in. And being aware of those and ready to change those is a base fundamental American philosophy. That goes all the way back to the Declaration of Independence. The founding fathers were woke to these injustices that the Crown of England was committing against America at the time, and they said, enough, we're not doing this anymore. And they wrote it down and they declared our independence, and they sent it to the king, and then they fought a war to ensure it. So woke is built into our history, part of who we are.
Yeah, no, I love this because I think it is important that we're not just putting our head in the sand, like Natalie said, but we're actually talking about it. And it's not just for one type of origin of people and just how everybody is a human being, like I said earlier, but how that can relate and how standing up for each person, each organization, each different background, because we're all different in some ways, but we all feel feelings. We're all human beings. We all bleed red, like all of those factors. And I like completely agree with you. It's just being aware of what's going on and using platforms and voices to showcase things that what you both are doing and creating more togetherness and coming and realizing that we're powerful together versus against each other, and not having all this hate. I mean, I would love peace and love throughout the world, but that's maybe a little far-fetched right now, but you're creating that. You're carving a spot for yourselves to really advocate and help other people and just continue to give charity to charities that are making a difference socially, economically, in every capacity and not just one entity, because I think that's really important to highlight, because it's not just one-sided. Just like even with the name patriotism, it's like it might symbolize one side, but that's not. And reframing that and reshaping that, like you both are doing, which I think is really important. And it's just even with, I'm sure, all the, because I know I've heard about the backlash and the challenges that you both have received in the process of even creating this line and having to change your name, rebrand. What do you think, like dealing with those moments that you've had to deal with, how do they influence you with your ongoing mission to continue forward, even when it's tough or even when you've been shut down or had the hate comments and continue to have them, but how do you keep moving forward?
I think that, well, kind of where we're wanting to go right now is actually partnering with those charities and organizations to help them get the word out about what they're doing, more so than just focusing on what we're trying to do, but helping them either by printing their shirts for their company to take that part off their plate as a, a smaller nonprofit. Maybe they want to do this, but don't have the volunteers or the manpower to really like own it. We want to help with that, but also help them get, and have another way to get their message out there. So that's where we're really pushing forward into, because we can't do this alone. It's not just us. We can't do anything alone. It's a, you know, this is a group effort. So we need to help everyone, just like,
Yeah.
that's what the brand is about. So
I think to your question about the hate and vitriol that gets spewed at us, like, to me, it serves a little bit as a motivator, to realize that that's what we're fighting. That's why we're doing this. That this whole concept of patriotism belongs to the wrong side is the driving force for this whole brand. And like, I hear those comments and I find motivation in them to get into my research. I keep a copy of the Declaration of Independence and Constitution like with me at all times. That's from when I served in the military. That I have this little book that's got those two documents in it, and I always had it in my uniform pocket with me. And now I carry it around, because when these comments come at you and they're patently un-American, but being peddled like they're the patriotic view is this, like, it's wrong, and there's evidence to prove it. It's here in the documents, and in the letters that were written by the founding fathers and all those other publications from that time. It's not a mystery what true American philosophy is, but it does appear to be a mystery to people today, and they just wrap something in patriotism because it makes it sound good, but it's not actually aligned with American philosophy.
Yeah, I feel like we've gotten away from what it started as to what it is today, and being able to reframe that and reshape it, starting through what we wear. And I love that you were able to take something that was so overwhelming in that process of just like the frustration and the things that you both endured, coming from a very patriotic background, but seeing how can we reshape that? How can we reframe that for others to see that it's not just one way, just even how we think. We all think so differently, how our mindset works and everything along those lines. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just looking at how can we come together. And that's what you both are bridging, a huge gap that's in this world, particularly in America. I'm sure it's other places too, but particularly here. And I'm just really curious too, with everything that you have just endured, what you've been building, what have been some of the biggest challenges in building a brand that carries both being patriotic as well as progressive messages? How do you balance staying true to your vision while running a successful business and clothing line?
Is continuing to create new designs that represent the issues of the day. You know, we started with this stars and stripes and equal rights concept, um, and you know, made two designs like Natalie mentioned to support two different causes, and then we saw immediately the need for women's rights, because you know, this was 2 years ago, so this was you know, closer to the time, I guess, when we remember the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and like, you know, realizing the problems that women are facing in our country in terms of equality and freedom. That's something we had to add, and then adding more designs as time goes on to show our support for the causes that are important. So I think that's the first step, is staying current and adding new product and new designs at all times. But I think there's this education piece to the brand as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just about selling apparel. You know, it's about the message of educating ourselves, educating Americans on what true patriotism actually looks like. You know, Natalie mentioned you know, if you believe certain things, you might be a woke American patriot. If you believe in true freedom for all Americans, even the ones who don't think like you, look like you, love like you, but you still want them to have the same freedoms as you, then you are a woke American patriot. And getting that message out there and that education piece out there is a big part of maintaining and continuing our brand.
Well, I can't wait to see what transpires with it. And just even your own personal journey as a couple and as individuals, I'm sure it's evolved in this process of building the brand together. In what ways have your values deepened or shift over time for like working together as a couple, building this brand together as a couple? What has transpired for both of you as a couple and individually?
I think working together um, is a whole challenge in of itself. Like, creating entrepreneurialism is a struggle to begin with, and then do it together with you know, the most important person in your life. And like, you know, like, you can make a joke about it. It's like, have you ever tried to assemble IKEA furniture with somebody else? Like, now do that times a million, and that's entrepreneurialism. Like, so of course it comes with challenges, but I think we've always maintained a belief that the key to any good relationship, whether it's with your spouse or a coworker or anything, is communication. So you have to find a way to communicate about the struggles that come with entrepreneurialism, regardless of what your brand and message are. There's always these challenges. So like, how do you communicate on the hard stuff? That's the real key. You know, it's easy to communicate it when it's easy. How do you communicate when it's hard? That's the key, I think.
Yeah, I would fully agree. I work with my husband, and sometimes it's a little challenging. The IKEA furniture, it really resonated. Some days are better than others, but that's the transparency, right? Like, it's understanding that communicating even about the hard things and working through it, not against it, because you're a team. It's like you against the world, essentially. That's what I always tell my
Yeah.
husband, because sometimes it can be really frustrating. He gets frustrated with me, I get frustrated with him. That's why I was curious for you guys and how you really communicate and being able to build something so powerful and will continue to be powerful and make a difference. And even looking ahead, what is your hope for future generations that will view or express their patriotism? And how does woke American Apparel fit into that vision?
There's a lot of hope riding on the upcoming election.
Yes.
And we just want, you know, really want people to get out and vote. I think it's hard to look beyond that future, right? Right? Like, because we don't, it feels so unknown of what will happen.
Yes.
If, you know, depending on which candidate wins. So it's, I don't know, that's,
I think there's a reality to acknowledge there from an American perspective, that, you know, some people criticize the idea that our politics convinces us that freedom is on the ballot every time we have an election, and that that's overstating it. And in reality, I think that freedom is always on the ballot, no matter who the candidates are. That's the point of our democracy, is we have a system that can be corrupted by a candidate who chooses to lie and chooses to pull the wool over their followers' eyes and convince them that that they're going to do things they're never going to do, and that can always be on the ballot. So it's never an exaggeration to say that freedom is on the ballot in America, because we are always voting for freedom, no matter what election we're talking about, or if it's a midterm, or if it's presidential, or if it's just a local election. It doesn't matter, because American philosophy goes all the way to the local community. And I say that very directly about the events happening in our nation today. When you see stories on the news about neighbors burning down their neighbor's garage because of a pride flag flying on the garage, or that's happening in America. These aren't made up stories. That's happening, and that's what I mean, that freedom exists at the local community level. So I think the point is that freedom does reside on the ballot every time we vote. So go to vote.gov and get registered and get out there and vote, because that is our obligation as Americans. That's the one obligation that is placed upon every citizen, is that you exercise your vote.
Absolutely.
Well, and no matter what happens, we are not planning on stopping fighting for these, maybe our plan has to change a little bit because we don't know what restrictions might be or whatever, but that doesn't mean that we're stopping fighting the good fight. So
Never.
I love it. And I know it's going to continue on for generations to come. And just even speaking of generations to come, what kind of legacy are you aiming to leave behind with woke American Apparel? Thinking like years and years ahead.
I want the legacy to be the reverse of what we described at the very beginning. When someone hears the word patriotism and sees the flag flying in the bed of my pickup, I want them to know that I reside on the left side of the political spectrum. I want there to be no question that that's what patriotism stands for.
I guess for me is like, the whole point of this totally was to remind all Americans that the flag is for everyone. This country is for everyone. It's not one side or the other. So, while sure, I would love to be able to be like, the flag is ours, but it's not. It belongs to everyone. So whether you are on whatever side of the spectrum you're on, you should be able to fly a flag and feel okay about it.
I do agree with that, and I make my statement earlier because the unfairness of it right now makes me feel that way. But the reality of America, I believe, is that you have to support each other's freedoms, even when you disagree, or maybe especially when you disagree, right? Like the true nature of American freedom means that you support a person's right to stand center stage, advocating at the top of their lungs that which you would spend a lifetime opposing. But their right to do it is their freedom, and you have to support them. That's the reality of what patriotism really represents, is that we keep this freedom alive so that we can have these heated discussions, but never question each other's right to hold our opinions and argue for our position.
Exactly. And I think it's what you said earlier too, communicating. When we communicate and actually have a conversation and listen to actively listen and not just listen to respond, like listening to what's going on in that conversation, because it can get very heated. I know families that will not talk about politics or anything at the dinner table because it gets too heated, and then people are not talking to each other anymore. But I think it's being able to respect everybody's opinion, because everyone's going to have an opinion and viewpoint based off of their own upbringing, their own experiences. But I think it's, again, coming back together of just, you're able to have your opinion and hold that to what it's your freedom. it's your right and your freedom to have those opinions. But I think it's, again, going back to what you both have been saying, it's coming together and knowing that there's room for all of us to be here. That's like the message that I hear so loudly and clearly through this whole conversation. And just even if somebody is an entrepreneur starting in this journey, want to start a business with a mission rooted in values and social causes, what advice would you give them?
I would say believe in it. Like, if you're gonna do it, it better be because you believe in it. Because and I think that's maybe true of any entrepreneurial effort, regardless of what it is that you, if you're starting a business just to make money, I don't know that your heart's in the right place, and I doubt you're going to find success. But if you're doing something because you're passionate about it and you believe in it, that's what will keep you going, right? That's what will give you the discipline to work through the problems and the challenges that always come up, and even the ones that are unique and specific to what we're trying to do. It's because we believe in the message and we believe in the cause that those challenges come along, but they don't discourage us or stop us.
It's definitely it's definitely a tough road. I have several friends that are dealing with particularly Parasol Patrol is dealing with a hate group right now, shutting down all of their social media. And so, the social causes, like there are people out there that really want to, stop what you're doing. And you have to just know that from the beginning that we're pushing through and we know we're doing the right thing and helping people. That's what we're here to do. So just stay strong.
Yes. And that's what it's about, staying strong, but like pushing the mission forward. If you truly believe in it, and no matter what it is and the causes, because it can get really muddy along that journey of entrepreneurship to begin with, but being able to really have your heart and soul in something, because it becomes part of us and who we are when we're creating something out of love and just pure wanting to change a system or a situation or whatever it is in the business aspect, but especially when it comes to social causes and making such a difference throughout the country. And it starts with us and taking action. Just like when I introduced you both earlier, it was about taking action, taking that action. If you believe in something, doing something about it versus just talking about it. And I just had this conversation earlier with someone else about just doing the things, not thinking about it, but doing. And I love what you both have accomplished and will continue to accomplish. But I'm so curious, where can people find your clothing, find you guys? We'll link everything below, but if you could let us know too.
So first is our website at wokeamericanapparel.com. And then we also have a store through Facebook, or Instagram. It's connected to both. We have a TikTok shop connected to our TikTok account. Just find us on all the social medias as Woke American Apparel, or on YouTube as Woke American. And all the links are in the bios, and you can find our store that way. But wokeamericanapparel.com is the beginning.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, is there anything you would like to say before I let you both go? Is there anything that's on your mind or you feel is important to just share with the audience?
Yes, if you're inspired by what you've heard us talk about, then you are a woke American patriot. So please help us fight the good fight and check out our website.
Yeah.
Would you like to add anything else, Natalie?
No, thank you for having us, and
Yes,
we're excited to, be a part of your journey too.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for taking the time just to share what you're up to and making such a difference, starting right here in Colorado and continuing throughout the US. But I appreciate you both spending a little bit of time with us and sharing what you've been up to. So thank you again for being on today.
thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment below. What was the biggest takeaway from Natalie and Jonathan today? I'm sure they would love to see that comment, and we'll see you on the next episode.